Setting a proper motivation, which consists of 3 parts. Refuge field. Visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of you, and particularly the author of the text, Aryadeva, and how you visualize them. That is very important. Visualize them as your very affectionate parents, and you imagine you come home demoralized from the school, and your parents are waiting there to give full love, affection, attention, and so forth. Next, Bodhicitta field. Visualize your 2 grandparents on the 2 sides, and all your family members around you, and everyone here in India, everyone in the entire universe, including the human beings, animals, the insects, the hell beings, hungry beings, and the beings of the celestial realm. And how you visualize them. Here you are the mother, and all others are like your children, and imagine they come home demoralized, and you are there to give full love, affection, attention, so forth, to the extent that each one of them feels themselves as so special in your eyes. And the purpose of this class is to achieve the greatest happiness for oneself by unraveling the ultimate treasure of happiness, which is also referred to as the Tathagata Garbha, or the Buddha nature that exists within each one of us, no matter who you are, no matter whether you're a believer, non-believer, whether you're human beings, whether you're a human being, non-human being, everyone has that potential of perfect happiness. So this, unfortunately, for the time being, it remains hidden, obscured, the way the gold remains hidden and obscured by the soil when in the ore form. So how do we know that there's gold there? Remove the gold, remove the soil away from the gold, and as the soil is removed more and more, the gold inside will start glowing. And then when the soil is removed altogether, then you see the gold is glowing perfectly well. Likewise, this incredibly great potential, the treasure of happiness that exists within each one of us like a gold, but mixed with the soil of the mental defilements. When we remove the mental defilements by resorting to the respective remedies properly, then the Buddha nature inside us will become more and more glowing. And eventually when the defilements are eradicated fully, then the Buddha nature within us will become manifest fully, and then you achieve the highest happiness, where you are not affected by any external factors. So how can we do that? Is by resorting to the correct remedies. And what are the remedies? The remedies, we see that the afflictions, the defilements, somehow either they're of the nature, they are this in the form of self-grasping ignorance, or in the form of the offshoots of the self-grasping ignorance. And the self-centered attitude, the best remedy by which to overcome them is by resorting to the wisdom of emptiness, to see the reality as it is in its true ontological form, which is the emptiness of objective existence. Like waking up from the sleep from the nightmare of the dream. Waking up, the moment you wake up, the nightmare stops by discovering that whatever was happening in the dream was not real, was all coming from the mind. Likewise, we wake up from the sleep of the unconventional dream of the samsara. We'll come to realize that all what is happening is nothing but all coming from the mind, and your fears dissolved away. You wake up from the nightmare of the sleep and your fears dissolve. This is exactly what happens if you resort to the wisdom of emptiness. But that must be complemented by the very strong, very powerful driving force of the renunciation and bodhicitta. And imagine that you are leading this congregation, and all sentient beings, including two parents, are joining you, happily joining you, and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they're watching us with a great sense of joy over what you're doing. Turn to page 2 of the prayer book. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Macra Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Macra Dharma to dispel all perverted views. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Macra Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. Independent origination, there is no ceasing, no rising, no annihilation, no permanence, no coming, no going, no separateness, and no sameness. I prostrate to the consummate Buddha, the supreme among all teachers, the one who taught this peace which is free of elaborations. I prostrate to the mothers of the Buddhas and of the hearers and Bodhisattvas, who through the knowledge of all these hearers seeking pacification and complete peace, who through the knowledge of past causes those have been migrated to achieve the aims of the world, and through the possession of omniscience, a subduer set forth their varieties having all aspects, the one who has transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations, the one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations, and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and the profound, who eternally shines forth the forever noble light rays, to you the Buddha I make prostrations. Okay, page 7. Page 7, from the bottom. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sanye jodo soge chonamda, chanjo pardo dane gyabsoje, age jinso gebe sonamge, tola penjire sanje rubaresho. Sanye jodo soge chonamda, chanjo pardo dane gyabsoje, Dage jinso gebe sonamge, tola benjire sangye rubaresho. Sangye joda soge shonamla, chanjo pardo dani gyabsochi. Dage jinso gebe sonamge, tola benjire sangye rubaresho. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of the causes as well as taught by the great seer. Okay, the mantra. This mantra is very precious, so precious. And for somebody who seeks as the inspiration from the Buddha Shakyamuni, very compassionate Buddha Shakyamuni, this mantra is like the ground, like the foundation, the fabric of the whole teaching of the Buddha Shakyamuni. So we have to know this meaning. The meaning, as you can very clearly see in English, the next stanza. So this mantra is so precious. And should we encounter a situation where we are sick, or your near and dear ones are sick, or you hear about the tragic demise of your near and dear ones, and so forth, or even the unknown people, if you can recite this mantra for them, this would be a great healing for all. And even the Buddha, in fact, the Buddha himself advised the people to recite this mantra. This is so precious, and this must be understood in the context of the four seals of the Buddha's teaching. All composite things are impermanent, all contaminated things are of suffering nature, everything is of nature empty and selflessness, transcending sorrow is nirvana. So this is how we should enter this mantra, and if possible, we need to know each of the words, the way explained in the interpretation or the meaning of the mantra given below. I'm going to recite this 3 times together. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum kado prabhava shantathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om hetu prabhavam hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. The meaning of the mantra: all phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of the causes as well is taught by the great seer. Okay, let's turn to page 15, the Heart Sutra. Page 15, Heart Sutra. This is a very important text, particularly in the context of the Mahayana Buddhism. So this very title says Heart Sutra, the essence of the teachings of the Buddha. So as we recite this, we need to think of the basic framework of this sutra, where the Buddha Shakyamuni, on this vulture's mountain, or the peak, the Buddha Shakyamuni, or compassion teacher, he presided over the congregation, headed by Aravadukateshvara, Shariputra, and innumerable bodhisattvas from the various world systems in the Milky Way galaxy, as well as in the other galaxies of the universe, and then the monks, and the devotees. So there the Buddha Shakyamuni then immersed into the meditation, and then on the one side was Aravadukateshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion. Then he was also immersed into the reflection on ultimate reality. Then on the other side was Shariputra, who was being blessed by the Buddha Shakyamuni, who was being inspired and blessed by the Buddha Shakyamuni to stand up to ask questions to Aravadukateshvara. So he stood up, Shariputra, he stood up, made prostrations to the Buddha Shakyamuni, and then turned towards Aravadukateshvara and asked a question. So the question was asked on behalf of all those who aspire to become Buddha, who aspire to awaken the seed of perfection within oneself, so that one can be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings. So these people who aspire to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, particularly the tradition followed by the Chinese Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, so those people in that line, they are referred to as the child of the lineage. The lineage here is the lineage of the Buddhahood. So the child of the lineage meaning someone who, just as the prince in the olden days was considered as so important, because eventually people come to know that this prince was going to become the king, the supreme head of the kingdom. Likewise, the person who aspires to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, referred to as the child of the lineage, because that this person in this lineage of the Buddhahood, that person will eventually become the universal guide, a guide to lead all the sentient beings of the entire universe. So the fact that we are here is a clear indication that we have admiration, we seek inspiration from the Mahayana teachings. So anyone who is in the right direction, and that too becoming more spontaneously inclined towards that, we then become a part of this, the child of the lineage, or children of the lineage. So the question asked by Shariputra as to how should a child of the lineage they practice the professional wisdom. Professional wisdom meaning the wisdom, the only panacea which has the capacity to lead all beings from the state of misery to the state of Buddhahood or to the state of ultimate happiness. So three things were not amiss. One, what was the question asked by Shariputra, as we read that Sutra? And the second point not amiss was what was the answer given by Aryadeva. So the answer given, to make it very quick, was that anyone who wants to practice the wisdom, professional wisdom, and being qualified as a child of the lineage, what they should be doing is that we should be able to see everything like a dream. Everything is like illusion, as mirage. Mirage, by seeing yourself like a dream. And then what constitutes the self? The five aggregates. From distance, we see the individual trees. No, we see the forest, we don't see the individual trees. Then you go closer towards inside the forest, you don't see the forest, you see the individual trees. Likewise, we see that from distance, we see we as the individual beings. Then you go into entering into the forest, we come to see that we are just nothing but made of the five elements. Within the five elements, the person disappears. So the emptiness, so it's only what we see from distance, not from the object, from the nearby. So see what is seen from distance like a mirage, like rainbow, seen from distance, not from the place where we are seeing this, is an indication of the subjective existence coming from your mind rather than from the object. So this was the response given, and then Aryadeva went on to explain in detail as to how the world with which we interact, none of the objects there in the world exist as independently, they're all like dream. And then the Four Noble Truths by which we jump into samsara and we exit from samsara, and then the 12 links of dependent origination, they're all like dreams. So this was the response given by Aryadeva. And point number 3 not to miss is, what is the benefit if you practice the way as indicated by Aryadeva, that everything is like a dream? So there, Aryadeva very clearly indicated, saying that Shariputra, therefore because there is no attainment, attainment is like a dream. Bodhisattva rely on and dwell in professional wisdom, a mind without obscuration, thus without fear. The moment we wake up from the dream, the nightmare, the fear of the nightmare stops. Likewise, the moment we discover that everything is like a dream, the fear of samsara, the fear of life stops. So that is the final purpose of the practice of this professional wisdom. So this is what is indicated by Aryadeva. So while we read this Sutra, let us make it a point that we don't miss these 3 points. 1, what is the question asked by Shariputra to Aryadeva? Number 2, what is the response given by Aryadeva to Shariputra? And then number 3, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of us practicing the professional wisdom as indicated by Aryadeva, by seeing things all as illusion-like, all as dream-like. Okay. So then in the end, the Buddha Shakyamuni arose from this meditative concentration. So because that Buddha, being the full enlightened being, he is able to see the true truth simultaneously. One, he was absorbed in the meditative concentration. On the other hand, simultaneously he was getting access to what was happening around. So coming out of the meditations, then the Buddha commented on the response given by Aryadeva, the endorsing or approving the answer given, saying that this is the wonderful answer, and this is the only gateway through which all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future will traverse to the ultimate state of happiness, and this is what all the beings in the lineage of the Buddha should be traversing. Okay, with that in mind, let's turn to page 15. I prostrate to the irretrievable gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of Valchas mountain in Rajgriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Aryadeva, looked upon the very practice of the profound illumination of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. How should any child of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravadukatishvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, fading, discrimination, composite factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are empty, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no fading, no discrimination, no composite factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely on one and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration, thus without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Dhyata Om Gade Gade Bara Gade Bara Samgade Bodhi Swaha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravadukatishvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated, even that the Dharmadas rejoiced. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Aravadukatishvara, those surrounding the entirety along with the world of gods, humans, asuras and gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised as spoken by the Bhagavan. Okay, as we recite this mantra, this mantra again, just like what we recited the earlier mantra, Ye Dharma Hidu Prabhava, this mantra is again equally very precious, very holy. And when we come to new places, you can recite the earlier mantra, you can recite this mantra on behalf of all the people there, on behalf of all the insects there, on behalf of all the animals there. And just imagine that you are like giving teachings of these mantras to all the beings. And say, for example, say in Ladakh or in Arunachal or in Sikkim or in say in the South India, many of the places where the Tibetans live. So we see that the Dharma is quite vibrant there in Dharamsala, but there are so many places where Dharma is totally unheard of, let alone this mantra, Tiyatom Gade Gade Paragade Barasamgade Buddhisam. This mantra is so precious. So when you go by trains, when you go by aeroplane, by car, by walking or by whatever vehicle that you may take, and when you do come across seeing new places and the remote places, urban and the whatever, rural, whatever, just say these mantras for all the beings there. All the beings there, there will be a tremendous benefit for them. And this is one way of hoping for the harmony, hoping for a happier the globe, the planet Earth, and for you as an individual person later on when you intend to practice bodhicitta. Because of this, what we're doing now, these gestures will help us to generate bodhicitta, to really see that bodhicitta dawns in us more swiftly and more steadily. Okay, this is so precious. So imagine the Buddha Shakyamuni is exhorting us thus: don't remain in the fears of samsara, come towards ultimate happiness, don't remain in the fears anymore. And you hearing this melodious voice of Buddha Shakyamuni, then you inspire your two parents and all your family members, all sentient beings, informing them, look, this is what a compassionate teacher Buddha Shakyamuni is exhorting us. Let us not remain in the fears of samsara anymore. Let us go towards the ultimate happiness. Let us all go towards that. Let us all go along together. Go along with me, come. And everyone so happily joins you, and you are leading this congregation. With that in mind, let's recite this mantra 7 times. Dhyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhi Swaha Dhyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhi Swaha Dhyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Swaha Dhyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhi Swaha Dhyata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhi Swaha Dhyata Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhi Swaha. Page 18. By the teachings of the 3 Supreme Jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be non-existent, may they be pacified, may all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified, may we be separated from problems and conditions harmful to the Dharma, may all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, may auspicious and perfect happiness pervade this place now. Okay, next, the 8th verse mind training. 8th verse mind training that we are reading is primarily to boost our self-confidence and subdue our own ego. So the ego results in our day-to-day experience, life experience. We see that the more egoistic we are, more angry we are towards anger. The more vulnerable we are to anger, and even a very small thing. Very small things can trigger agitation, irritation, and so forth within us. We become so irritable. So it's all because of this anger, and anger which in turn, in most cases, were rooted to the ego. So we have to see how this ego is so destructive, and how the self-confidence is so important. We are not they equate the two things, self-confidence and ego. Self-confidence, it is required for us. We should not have a sense of self-hate. The moment you have a sense of self-hate, this is the greatest failure. So no one else can fail us, only our sense of the loss of faith within yourself, loss of respect for yourself, loss of love for yourself. This is what is the greatest failure. So self-confidence must be there, but the ego, we should not be giving into the ego. So oftentimes these two things are seen as interchangeable by the ordinary people. Say the more self-confident we are, people tend to be more egoistic. And less egoistic the person is, less self-confident the person is. So therefore, we need to be extremely careful to make sure that ego and self-confidence, these two are different, and then we boost our self-confidence while undermining the ego. So what we're doing here, it was my training, that's primarily to subdue our ego and boost self-confidence. Okay, let's read that together. With the determination to achieve the highest aim, for the benefit of all sentient beings, which surpasses even the wish-fulfilling gem, may hold them dear at all times. Whenever I interact with someone, I view myself as the lowest amongst all, and from the very depths of my heart, respectfully hold others as superior. In all my deeds may I be probing my mind, and as soon as mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, may I strongly confront them and avert them. When I see beings of unpleasant character, oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as if I have discovered a jewel treasure. When others out of jealousy treat me wrong with abuse and slender scorn, may I take upon myself the defeat and offer to others the victory. When someone whom I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me in extreme hurtful ways, in brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly. May I quietly take upon myself all hurts and pains of my mothers. May all these remain undefiled by the stains of age, mundane concerns, and may I, recognizing all things as illusions, devoid of clinging, be released from bondage. From our two collections, vast space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds crystallized, blinded by ignorance. Okay, now what we do is 5 minutes breathing meditation. Okay, should there be anyone who has... Okay, how many of you were not exposed to meditation earlier? Anyone? Okay, if we are already exposed to meditation, so basically what we do is that there are so many kinds of meditation, so many kinds, and we can do whatever meditation that we like to do, and then beginners, it would be good for us to start with the breathing meditation. For the breathing meditation, there are 4 things to keep in mind very quickly. 1 is the body posture, number 2 is the focal point, what we're going to meditate on, number 3 is identifying the errors of meditation, number 4 is applying the remedies to overcome the errors. Okay, number 1, body posture wise, whether cross-legged or not cross-legged is up to the individual. And if you want to be a long-term meditator, then we must learn how to sit cross-legged if possible. And what is very important is backbone upright. That is so important. Backbone should be upright. Meanwhile, the body should not be rigid, it should be flexible. Then your head tilted forward a little bit, and your eyes not closed. That is so important. Eyes not closed. And if you've been doing meditation with eyes closed for the last more than 1 year, then exempted. Otherwise, those who are beginners or not being used to meditation for more than 1 year, I would suggest you to do the meditation with eyes open. And doing meditation with eyes open is more difficult, much more difficult. And once you learn how to do meditation with the eyes open, to do with meditation with eyes closed is very easy. Whereas you do it with eyes closed and then later doing it with eyes open is so difficult. Okay, so we learn how to do it with eyes open. That suffices learning both the methods. Then the tip of the tongue should touch the upper palate to avoid excessive accumulation of saliva in the mouth. And then breathe naturally. And your right hand on your left hand, tips of 2 thumbs joining, forming a triangle. Place the 2 hands on your laps in restful state. Okay, this is your body posture. Number 2 is focal point. What are we going to meditate on? We're going to meditate on a very tiny dot, tiny white dot, 1 mm or 2 mm in diameter between the nose and upper lip. This is where we're going to focus on. While you focus mind there, multitasking. Count your breath, breathe in, breathe out, cycle 1, breathe in, breathe out, cycle 2. This is what we're going to do for 5 minutes. And those of us who are really beginners, so here we're going to do for 5 minutes, but at home I would suggest you to do only for 2 minutes, which is going to be a little over say the 30 or 35 counts. So this is what we're going to do. Number 3 and number 4 are so important. Number 3 is identify the errors of meditation. One, you stay in the meditative posture, but if your mind is distracted, this is one mistake. And your mind is so heavy, lethargic, and inserviceable, this is another error. So these two must be avoided. To avoid these two, once you apply the remedies, and the remedies twofold: introspection and mindfulness. Introspection is to keep an eye on your own mind, to see your mind, whether it is still meditating or it is already swayed under distraction or laxity. So that is introspection. Once you see that your mind is distracted or in a relaxed state, apply the second remedy, which is mindfulness. Mindfulness is to bring the mind back to the intended object of meditation. Okay, this is what we're going to do for 5 minutes. Ready? Okay, last time we were doing a little bit of intro of the chapter 11. The text, Aryadeva's text 400 on the middle way. This chapter, no doubt this chapter is a little technical. Just a little technical. In fact, I think it was several years ago, His Holiness taught this chapter, I think in Switzerland or Germany. I think Germany. So there, during just the, I think, interval session, His Holiness very casually told me that this text is very complicated. Very complicated. And then His Holiness was saying that whether it is the style of composition is complicated or the subject matter which is complicated. Even the style of if you read the English, we will not really understand it. Not in the English, the Tibetan also will not really understand it. And then Sanskrit we're not too sure, I cannot say anything because I have no clue about the Sanskrit. But the Tibetan for sure you read it, even if you are so good in the dharma, terminology, the understanding, philosophy, but if you read it, you'll not really understand it unless you refer to a very standard commentary by Acharya Chandrakirti. And there are many more commentaries. What we have now is by Geshe Dorji. So this is no doubt, chapter 11 is going to be quite technical, but we will strive. The point is that these things, the reasonings, even though we may not fully understand what is written there, but the reasonings, if you follow a little bit from this, then we'll get, gradually we will build up on the reasonings stated there, and something of the intangibility of the reality can possibly come to us. Okay, so the point is the study is so important. Page 251, and the whole chapter is a chapter on examining the time. So what time is, and whether or not the time exists as objective, as an intrinsic reality, this question. So it begins by saying that the present part and the past one do not exist in the future part. Since both would be future, the future would not exist. Okay. We have the concept of the present, past and future. Present, past and future. Okay, let us not be too philosophical for the time being. Just share with me or share with us as to what do you understand by past. Present is okay. We always speak about the being the present moment, right? We always talk about it. That's relatively fine. But the point is, what do you understand by past? What do you understand by future, right? And so this is, in fact, for me, the more I go through this kind of text, very complicated text, the more I can understand what past is. And then the time that we learned in the tennis system of Bhashika, that the concept of time, and then what we learn in South Tantrika. So from there, and the concept of the three times, when that we earlier had gets shattered, And there's nothing really for us to grab or to say that this is time, this is past, present, future. Okay. So first thing that we need to see is whether or not past and future exists. Right? Just speak your mind. Don't try to rationalize. Don't try to copy what the earlier scholars said. Okay. The first question is whether or not you accept that present exists. If somebody said present is non-existent, then I don't know what that person is saying. What about the past and the future? How many of you would say that past and future exists? Okay, how many of you say that past and future do not exist? Okay. Let's say science fiction has they speak about the time machine to go into the past. I would say this is purely fiction. This is purely fiction, right? It makes no sense. Okay. Those of us who said that past exists. Well, anyway, one thing that I'd like to share with you is the language. Tibetan. I don't know what that is in Sanskrit. Sanskrit may be closely related to the Tibetan. I would say Tibetan closely related to Sanskrit. In Tibetan, how we study this chapter in Tibetan and how we study the same chapter in English, I personally see that it's more difficult to study this in English, because the concept was narrated initially in Sanskrit. And Tibetan language, the beauty of the Tibetan language was that it remains so loyal to Sanskrit and to, Sanskrit meaning Devanagari script, and so loyal to the philosophy. Even the whole script, the language pattern, the grammar of Tibetan was designed to accord, to understand the Buddhist philosophy, just for that purpose. Whereas English, which we use now, that is not to contain, not to understand, not to share the Buddhist concepts. So it already had a very rich philosophical, theological concepts as its content matter, Judeo-Christian, the philosophy and the theology there as its content matter. So now we borrow the English, and number two, that English language, how the language works is very different. For example, I don't remember too well, there was back in 2000, I think 2005 or 6, it's about like 11 years ago. Once some of the Israelis, they were translating the Mula Madhyamika Karika, Nagarjuna's text, Mula Madhyamika Karika into the Hebrew, and we were having some discussions on that for them to translate it easier, for them to find it easier to translate. And in Tibetan, it's not a problem to say referring to the other person. We can say ko, mo, or te, kong. This word, everybody say kong. So this is something common, is a singular and common to male and female. And this I, the person, kansa, is common, purush, is common to male and female. Whereas in Hebrew, they said that they do not have such one word which is applicable both to the males and the females. You have to do two different words. Or I think it's he, she, like this. So it was so difficult to translate. So difficult to translate the subject matter. So likewise, what I notice between the difference between the English and the Tibetan is that in English we cannot say the past exists. We have to say past existed. Right? In Tibetan we can say that. So for example, ye, past existed. In Tibetan, ye. A present exists. Tibetan, ye. So there, the language pattern is very different, because of which, what we're going to study here, I'm not too sure, say the subject matter is not as complicated when you study that in English. Complication disappears because of the sentence structure and the grammar of English, whereas in Tibetan it becomes very, say, ambiguous, complicated. I don't know whether it's the beauty of the Tibetan language or beauty of the English language. I'm not too sure. Okay. Anyway, with English, things seems to the complication seems to become untangled. Okay. With that in mind, let's say the past, present, and the future. Present, what is happening now, it is present, which is so vivid in our mind. And the past, what can you speak about the past? If you say the past existed, what was that past? Can you give some examples? Like what? Ajirla? The memories. Okay, let's be very precise, because when you speak about the memory, the memories that I have, we are talking about the present memories, right? Right? The memories of the past that I have, right? So here, the memory is the container and the content. What I remembered, or what I remember of the past. Okay, let's say 2016. 2016, present, past, future. What is this?
Past.
It was past, or it is past. It was past. What is the proper English? Tejala? Huh? It is past. It was not past. Huh? Professor Managerji? 2016 was past or is past?
Either it has passed or it is past.
No. In the context of the three times. Past time, past, present and future. Rimala? Is past. Okay, then it's good. Okay. So 2016 is past. Okay. 2016 is past, and 2016, okay, it was a year, whole 1 year. It was a whole 1 year, right? And then 2018 is future. 2018 is future. Okay. So the future exists. The past exists. The past what? Exists or existed? What is the proper English?
Existed.
Huh? Existed. Past existed. 2016 existed. Right? But 2016 is past. Okay. Now the thing is that the present, the future. Okay, Ankit, what is your English? Singlish or Angela, what is your English? Your English is Singlish or the
English.
No, you are in Singapore for many years.
Yes, I didn't pick up English much.
Singlish now. English.
English.
Is English English?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, then it's good. English is good.
Only English.
Huh?
One English.
Okay. Okay. Are you good? Okay. Yes. Yeah.
What about like things like World War II, World War I?
Exactly.
Historical facts.
Okay, let's say World War One, World War Two, which actually happened. They were past. They are past. They were not past. Okay. They were what? Huh? Okay, they are past. Okay, so language is, so say subject matter is there as well as the language ambiguity is there. Okay, now the thing is, say as long as we know this, say let us plant an apple seed. Say we planted an apple seed, yes, 2016. We planted an apple seed, 2016, and then 2017 it grows to a shoot. Then 2018 it grows to a big tree with fruits. 2016 we planted the seed. 2017 it grows to a shoot, sapling. 2018 it grows to a big tree with fruits. Let's say, is that possible or not?
Yes.
Okay, if that is possible, then we start from there. So 2016 when we planted the seed is past. Okay, which of the three times? 2000, the seed we planted, past. It is past. So the sapling today is a present, and then the growing into a big tree with the resultant big tree with the fruits is future, right? Okay, let's see. Now, say the question, if we could remember from what we discussed, those of us who were since the early classes, we discussed that the basic question was, how did this universe come into being? How this universe came into being, right? In other words, who created this universe? To be very direct, who created this universe? This was the question which struck the philosophers. I should say the philosophers. Then so many answers came out, right? And for example, say I am good in philosophy, or I'm good in my thought processes. Then I say that, okay, it was created by my uncle, right? And then the people who trust me, then I die. Then you cannot ask this question to me now anymore. Who was your uncle? How did he create? You cannot ask this to me anymore. And because of your tremendous devotion, you start jotting them down. Then after 100 years, it becomes the scripture, right? Holy book, scripture. So all these things happen. So people start jotting down what they inherited from their teacher, from their things, and then so many versions came out. And it is not a matter, just keep that aside. About the religiosity, keep that aside. We speak about the philosophy. Same, some very, very pragmatic philosophers and the followers, they will not just call them as philosophers, they will call them as great saints, right? They say that what really created the universe was the particles. It's amazing. So pragmatic, so practical, right? Being very thoughtful. Say, for example, what we see now, the prayer flags there, and what makes those prayer flags move because of the air. There must be air particles there. And the prayer flags, right? Say, the prayer flags, because there is a matter there, which constitute the prayer flags, and the air, the molecules, So that bang against the other one and push aside. This is what is see as the preflex moving. This is also made of particles. And our body is also made of particles. And the earth on which we walk, that is also made of particles. The whole thing is made of particles. So, one set of philosophers, or the philosophy, came up saying that the particles, they existed since time immemorial, and they are the creator of the universe. One. Then another set of philosophers said that no, even the particles, they change. Creator means it should not change. Even the particles also change. So what is really seen there not changing is the time. Time remains static. Time will never disappear. Time will never disappear, and time remains static. Time is permanent, and time governs everything. So the time is the one which is the creator of the universe. And today, according to what the universe is created of, according to modern science, only physics touches this area, not other sciences. So according to physics, today they talk about the Big Bang Theory. And the question arises, and they give their justification. They give the justification on the rationality as to what made them think that the world is started by the Big Bang. Universe is started by the Big Bang. So on the basis of what is known as the Doppler's effect. On that basis, they conclude that the universe was the origin of universe. Who created the universe? It was the singularity, the Big Bang, the singularity which created the universe. So this was the physics point of view. So this is amazing. So now, chapter 11, from there, idea was that the universe seemed to be in flux, but this flux is due to the time, and time is permanent. So there must be a permanent entity there, which is time, and which is the basis for the whole the universe operates. The flux of the universe, the operates. So time is permanent. This is one of the philosophy is pertaining to the belief in what a time is. That time is so powerful, time is permanent, and that is the creator of the universe. Okay, so with this, when you speak about the time, that the time is permanent. Permanent means that it already takes us to believe that the time is intrinsic in nature. Intrinsic, not something like a dream, coming out of our mind, but something so tangibly, something so intrinsically out there as a permanent entity. So this is the belief in the time to be the creator of the universe. So with this, now what we have to know is that to see first of all whether such a time exists, time which is permanent and intrinsically real, this question. And so for that we have to start from the empirical reality, not just the abstract, we have to touch the empirical reality of time. So from what we learn, for example, say World War I, World War II, which actually happened, not World War IV, World War X, no. We can rightly, we can logically, we can sensibly say that World War I, II happened and 3, 4 did not happen. This we can say. And where is this World War I and II? It is not there, it was there. It happened. So we speak about the past. Like say 2016 we planted the apple seed. Now 2017 it has turned into the sapling. Then 2017 it will grow into the resultant huge tree with apples. Okay, so we create these three scenarios. Now we see that it is as though like there is a flow of the stream. So that the seed of the apple seed, it transforms into the sapling, and sapling transforms into the apple tree with fruits. Okay, so there's a stream happening, there's a flow happening, flow. So this flow, we call it time. We call it time, from the past, present and future. Okay, so now the author of the text is examining, saying, for those who accept the time to be so permanent and so powerful, which governs the whole universe, right? Okay, I don't think most of us ever felt that, right? February this year, when I was in Israel, I saw, what is this? The cactus plant, Cactus plant, right? Cactus plant, say the leaf, or what is that? The stem or leaf or whatever. The stem come leaf, right? And then the next, again it'll grow another small bud in there. Again the next leaf on top of that, right? So like a chain. And do you think that, how many of you have seen such big cactus leaves? Okay, so we all have seen that. Can you imagine that you want another one on the first, if there's only one piece there, you want the second piece, can you put more water and make it happen the next week? No. How long does it take? Anyone who's from botany? Anyone from botany, or anyone who's interested in botany, in plants, horticulture? Okay, so it must be taking years. And then what I saw was I think like, say, one leaf big size, and then next, about like 9 or 10, huge. And then it was very dusty because nobody was taking care of that. And just looking at it, it made me feel the power of the time. So this, we the human beings cannot create. Only time. We have to wait for the time to pass, and only then these things happen, right? So I saw the power of time, and that thought actually did not really occur to me until that point, which when I was like 49. The last for 9 years, that thought did not come to me. So I don't know how many of us here had that very strong feeling that time is so powerful, we cannot do anything. It's the time which decides what happens, right? Okay, anyway, this little digression. So now the point is that the present and future exists or not exists, this question, right? And that too pertaining to the same you, in favor of, not in favor, you say the trying to work on Aryadeva's reasoning and say, I am the one who believes that time is permanent, time is the one which is the most powerful, which is permanent, and that created the whole universe, right? Okay, when I was seeing that cactus leaves there, then if I have no philosophy background, I would surely say that time created the universe. I would surely say that. That gave me such a strong feeling. We can't do anything. It's the time which decides what the universe is going to be like. That feeling came to me very strongly at that time. Okay, now we speak about, say, the past, present, and future. What we know, what we all, the consensus, having the consensus, is that the past, the seed, transforms into the today's sapling, and today's sapling will transform into the tomorrow's, the big tree, the future. So the past, present, future. This is what we all agree. So with that in mind, let's see. 251. The present pot and a past one. The pot which existed today which exists today, and the past one, the pot which existed in the past pot, do not exist in the future. Of course, this is very technical, right? Okay, I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Do not exist in the future pot, since both would be future. The future would not exist. Okay, so what is being said here is that we give the example of the seed, sapling, and the tree. Likewise, let's say this pot. So let's say this is a pot. And it existed yesterday. It existed yesterday. That was past. That is past. That was past. Huh? That is past. Professor Meenakshi ji? That is or that was. This existed yesterday. So yesterday's pot is past or was past? Is past. Okay, that is English. Okay. Amriti, what is your version? Radhika? Is past. Okay. So there must be others. Okay. Okay, so first, otherwise all our structure will disappear. What little I have even that is about to disappear. Right, please don't disturb for the time being. So later I'll surely give you, we have a question answer session. Okay. Say like what we said, the seed, yesterday's seed, and today's sapling, and tomorrow's the resultant tree. Likewise the pot, yesterday's pot, the same continue, not different pots. Yesterday's pot, today's pot, and future pot, 3, right? Okay, so say the yesterday's pot was past. It existed. Then it changed into today's pot. It changed to today's pot. And today's pot will change into tomorrow's pot if it doesn't break in between. It will change into tomorrow's pot, right? So it's a present pot and a past one. Past pot do not exist in the future pot. Meaning, same, yesterday's pot existed, and today's pot exists, and tomorrow's pot, if nothing comes in the way, it will exist. Right? Okay. Say, if this time, past, present, future, if they exist as intrinsically real, as permanent plus intrinsically real, then okay, now you want it very simply or complicated? Huh? First simply, right? First simply. If simply, then I will put it like this so that we can actually go through the text. Otherwise, if you go to the complicated, we will never finish the text. Even this chapter will not finish. To make it simply, the thing is that if the time exists, these 3 times exist, that is for sure, right? But these 3 times, past, present, future, if they exist permanently, right? If they exist permanently, they should be independent of each other. Permanently and intrinsically, they should be independent of each other. If they are independent of each other, they should not depend on each other. If they don't depend on each other, then one should not influence the other. One should not affect the other. One cannot be affected by the others. Okay, this is what we need to know. If that is the case, then say future pot. The future pot, if it does exist, it should exist independent of today's pot, present pot, right? Then where is it? That the future pot, does it have the capacity to hold water? No? Or will it have the capacity to hold water? Yes. Does it have the capacity to hold water? No, because it does not exist today. Then when will that serve? When will that serve? Will it serve as a purpose to contain the water. So that will, from how we understand is, so what is, say, tomorrow, what is seen as tomorrow, 2018, which is future with respect to today, slowly will become today. Yes? Slowly it will not remain future all the time. It will become present. And this will become past. You getting it? This is how it should flow. One way of understanding it.
Can we say it is becoming?
Okay, let's say. So say the future 2018 will become 2017, right? And 2017 will become the past, right? Okay, then 2019 will become the future. 19 still is future, right? Then there will be the immediate, it will take over the 2018, 2018 will become the present, and 17 will become the past. Okay, so this is how it should be. Only if 2017 becomes past, then 2018 can become present, right? So they are dependent on each other. Because 2017 is the present, 2018 becomes future. 2016 becomes the past. So we see that past, present, future, they are all dependent on each other. And they are not static. What is future always remains the future. What is past always remains the past. Oh yeah, what is past always remains past. Yes? No? Okay, 2016 always remains past. With respect to 2015, it was future, right? So we see the past, present, future. One, we have to speak of that with respect to a frame of reference, right? One. Today when we say 2018 is future, what we are saying is with respect to now, 2017. With respect to 2017 as the present, we speak about 2018 as the future. Whereas if time exists as independent to each other, right? It doesn't matter whether 2017 is present or past. 2018 should always remain as future. If it always remains a future, 2018, the functionalities like the pot, like the tree, apple tree and so forth, will be totally meaningless because they will have meaning only when they become the present moment and they serve to benefit the people, right? To serve the benefit of the people. So whereas if they are independent of the present and the past, then they will, if they are present, they will always remain as present. If something is in the future, will always remain as future. Okay. So it says the present pot and a past pot do not exist in the future pot. Meaning, right? So in actuality, what happens? The future 2018 pot, 2018 will eventually become, present, and present will become the past. So what we see is that the future, or so this is the flow. In fact, this flow, there are two ways of seeing it. The flow. If you see like this, 2018 becoming present, and 2017 becoming the past, there's a flow from the future to the past. You getting it? Future towards the past. Now if we see the apple seed, then apple sapling, then the apple big tree. So that flows from the past to the future. Do you see that? Right? Okay. So past to the future means what was existed in the past, it is brought to the future. What is in the future is brought to the, in the present will be brought to the future. So from one sense, we see that what was in the past will eventually go to the future. What is in the present will eventually go to the future. So this is when you think about the seed going to the sapling to the... Okay, how many of you existed 2015? All of us. That was past. That is past. Then how many exist 2016, 17? Okay, that is present. And then if nothing bad happens, untimely nothing happens, then we're going to be in 2018, that is future. So we travel from 2016 to 17 to 18. You agree with me? From the past to present to future. Right? Okay. So that person who existed, that person who existed in the past 2016 had the body and the mind. And where did they go, the body and the mind? They came in today, and this will go where tomorrow? So what was there in the past? Past body will go to the present body will go to the future body, right? So from this angle, if something is so without imputation, if everything is intrinsically real, then what was in the past should be in the future. Meaning that what was in 2016 should be in 2018, because say things exist, in actuality things exist by dependency. If things don't depend on each other, if things exist independently as well as it conforms to how the three times function, then the past body and the mind, 2016 body and mind, transforms to 2017 body and mind, goes to 2018 body and mind. So the past body will be seen in 2018, that is the future, right? And present body will be seen in 2018, that is the present body. So the present body and the past body seen in the future. So it says the present part and the past one do not exist in the future part, right? Future part. If you believe in the intrinsic time, then we have to believe that what is in the past should be in the future, what is in the present should be also in the future. If you believe in the intrinsic, objectively there. Say for example, if I say that, there are three rooms, there are three compartments, there are three rooms, and person A, person B, person C, right? Person A who is in room A, while he's in room A, can he simultaneously be in room C?
No.
It cannot be, right? It cannot be. So, likewise, why that the person in room A cannot simultaneously be in person in room C? Why not?
Otherwise it will be duplication of the same person.
It
will be duplication of the same person.
So the duplication does not happen, right? In actuality, the duplication cannot happen. So therefore, the person cannot emanate simultaneously in two different places from the conventional understanding. Very good. Okay.
One is that duplication, we have to accept that there is duplication.
As he said, first is we have to accept that there is duplication, or we have to accept that this A is not in A, actually it's in C. We have to say this is in C.
The person in room A, I said it.
Yeah, so if it is in C, we cannot say person is in person A in C. Actually, we have to say it's person C, means it's in C. So we have to accept the present is in future, means it's future.
No, this is my question. My question is, why is person A, who is in room A, cannot simultaneously be in room C? This is my question. So, we speak about that it cannot be duplicated, right? Say what? If room A and room C, these two are same, with two different labels, then it's possible, right? Then it's possible. Whereas if they are separate, independent entities, three independent rooms, then the person A in room A cannot simultaneously be in room C, because these three are three independent rooms. Likewise, present, past, and future. No, past, present, future. If there are three independent times, then what is in past can never be in the future, right? The one that existed in the past can never go into the present, can never go into future, right? Okay, because they are all independent entities. Why we can say that our body and mind of the 2016 transformed into the one of 2017, will transform into 2018, was because of the dependency. Because the body of the 2017 is dependent on the body of the 2016. Body of 2018 will be dependent on the body of the 2017. So dependency is there. If they are all independent, then the dependency is not there. If the dependency is not there, so what was in 2016 cannot possibly go to 2018, right? So the present part and the past one do not exist in the future part, since both would be future. If you say that, then what Pujara is saying is coming here now. If you say that what was in the past, what is in the present, if they are in the future, if you still say this, the way we say, and at the same time accepting things to exist as time as intrinsically real, as independently real, then we have to say that it is what we call as the past part is not a past part, it is the future part. What is the present part should not be present part, it should be future part. So if that is the case, then since both would be future, both meaning the past and the present both become future. If they become future, then what left? What is left? Only future is there. If only future is there, then past and present is not there. If the past and present is not there, then future makes no sense. Because future exists only by dependence on past and present. It says future would not exist. 252. If a disintegrated thing exists as a future entity in the future, how can what is future, what is future in nature, become what is past? Okay. So this is a little technical, don't worry too much, right? So from your side, just keep in mind that, okay, today our job is simply to listen. If I have some questions, we can ask. Otherwise, I don't have any responsibility to really grab at it, right? Okay, so this is a little technical, and as long as you try to think along with me trying to explain this, right? That itself is our purpose. We grow in the analytical faculty. So that is important. If a disintegrated thing exists, okay. So this reminded me of, I did mention this to someone. I remember my teacher, Venerable Geshe Dorji. I could boldly say that today he is the world number 1, world number 2 logician in the world. Today, logician, world number 1. I can say this with great confidence. Then all his writings, they are like formulas, no explanation. They are like all formulas. You know chemistry formula and derivative, the formulas. They are all like formulas. You read his writings, they are all like formulas, right? And we hardly understand what he wrote. And then one of the Western, one of the Westerners, he so innocently went there, approached, because he's so famous, approached him, and then requested for the teaching. And then it so happened that he again came up with the same 4 or 5 pages of formulas of what he wrote about the very complicated philosophy. To understand these 4 or 5 pages, you have to understand like 4 or 5 volumes, without which it's impossible. So then he started to talk about this. And then what he said, that because of the language barrier, I cannot teach you. So you take this to Dorji Damdul, and he will teach you. Right? And then the poor monk came to me, the Westerner, he came to me, oh, Venerable Geshe Rinpoche, he's just wondering if you can teach this. And then before he arrived, I received a call from Venerable Geshe Pandit, my teacher. And then he asked, Dorji, and he said, Venerable sir, yes. There's one monk who likes to learn this. And I cannot teach because it's the language barrier. So you can directly teach in English. So would you get time to teach? I did not have any time. Literally, I didn't have any time, but I cannot say no. I said, yes, sir. Right? And then okay, then I'll tell him to go to you. He said, yes, sir. Actually, I did not have time, but I have to say yes. And then the Westerner came to me with this formula. Believe it or not, just the first line, it took us 3 days. Just the first line, I read it like 4, 5, 10 times. I read it and he tried to explain this, and I could see that he did not understand it. And again, and then I so innocently invited the Western lady, not lady, Western nun, who was then already like, I think, early 70s, to join, thinking that she would learn something. And that it was my miscalculation. Both of them started to have a double eyelash. Double eyelash means so confusion happening in the brain, reflected in the double eyelash. I could not finish at all. And then I could see that this first line, I could see that, okay, for this we need to have background from this text, from that text, from Mula Madhyamika, from Pramana Vardika. So I could see all these things, and for this to understand, again we have to understand other things. Just by reading the first line, and they are into blessing in disguise. No, the ignorance is bliss. And I could see. And I already just feel so exhausted within, and still try to explain, because I said yes. I said yes. So this was what went, so this is something of this kind. Right? So better let's go like this. Okay. If a disintegrated thing exists as a future entity in the future, how can what is future in nature become that which is past? Okay, this is not so difficult. Second stance is not so difficult. It says, if a disintegrated thing, the past pot, or the vase, or let's say past flower, because the passport means the passport, again people can, there's additional confusion. Okay, past flower. The past flower is what? By the very definition, it is a disintegrated thing. Yes, no? Yes. The past means it's already disintegrating. What is past if it is in the future? If it is the future, as an intrinsic quality. If a disintegrated thing exists as a future entity in the future, the way we said that our body of the past will become the body of the today, will become the body of the future, right? So this is what we said. So if this is what happened, and the time is so unrelated, independent of each other, then what was the disintegrated, the past flower? It should exist in the future. If it exists in the future, it should exist as the future nature of the future. It says, if a disintegrated thing exists as a future entity in the future, because if it exists in the future, it should be a future entity. It's not far past. Future entity. How can what is future entity become that which is past? How can you describe this as a past phenomena, right? So whereas if you know that things are dependent, not independent, so what is past? By dependence on the change. One time it can become the future, another time it was the past. So this is what we can posit if we have the understanding of dependency. Whereas if you see everything as objectively real, independent of each other, what is past should always remain past. It can never be future, because what is past can become future only when the past serves as a cause to give rise to by dependence of which given rise to the present is the result, and the present serves as a cause by dependence of which the future will be given rise to as a result. So dependency is there. Where dependence is there, then what was once a past can become a future, can exist as a future in another time.
But if things are only intrinsically real as independent, then this is not possible. Number 3, 253. Because of being future in nature, a future functional thing is thus present and cannot be future. Okay, say now, let's say the flower of 2018, which according to the advocates of permanent independent existence,
Independent time has been.
No. Okay, yes. Permanent independent existence, permanent independent the time, right? Permanent independent time. For them, the problem is that what exists as the future of flower? What is that? 2018 flower. 2018 flower, right? So, because that it can never become the present flower. If that is a flower, or if that will be a flower, what we call the flower, then it should function as a flower at some time. So when will it serve as, when will it function as a flower? It can function as a flower only in the present, only in the context of the present, never in the future. Never in the future, right? So it says that because of being future in nature, number 3, a future functional thing is thus present. If it does function, it should become present. And if it is present, it cannot be future. Right? It cannot be future. Okay. 254. If the future, past and present exists, if they say that yes, the past, present, future all exists independently and permanently, right? Then what happens? What does not exist? What we say is that today we say that 2008, say the flower 2018, it doesn't exist. It does not exist because it is the future. It does not exist. But say what is non-existent, or say what was non-existent 2017, which was non-existent with respect to 2016, right? What is non-existent eventually became existent. But if the future, past and present all exists as independent entity, then it's not that they should be dependent on each other. If they're not dependent on each other, if they exist, they should exist simultaneously. So just as present exists, while the present exists, future should exist, past should exist. If that happens, then how can there be impermanence? If all these 3 times exist together, impermanence means there should be change. Change means something which was existent earlier should become non-existent. Something which was non-existent earlier should become existent. So there should be change. Change means that those 3 times don't exist simultaneously. So whereas if you accept that 3 times existing simultaneously, you cannot account for the change, you cannot account for the impermanence. How can there be impermanence for one for whom all times exist simultaneously? 255. If it has passed beyond the past, why is it the past? If it has not passed beyond the past, why is it the past? Okay. Right? Okay. Say we speak about the past. Say 2016 is past. 2016 is past. Past means what is no more now? What is no more existent with respect to the present? Okay. Anyway, this is really the question. I'm not going to go too much into detail. What exactly is past? What exactly is the future? If you could remember from the definition given in the tenor system, the Vaibhashikas, what's the definition of the past? Disintegratedness of the object. You remember that? Disintegratedness of the object. Okay, so this integratedness. For example, say the flower. We don't speak about the flower of 2016 as the past. What is the past? Is the disintegratedness of the 2016 flower. That is the past, right? Okay, so let's 255. If it has passed beyond the past, why is it the past? We speak of the past, one, and that to say the point is that if somebody accepts the time, the 3 times to be permanent and independent, then what? There was a problem. They should not be related to each other. They should not be dependent on each other. If they are not dependent on each other, then what? If they exist, they should exist at all times. If they don't exist in one time, they should never exist. Because something which exists and then disappearing, something which does not exist and coming to existence, means that depends on a third factor. That depends on another condition. When the conditions are there, then things come to being, non-existent, existent. When conditions are not there, whatever is existent also disappears. So this is because the dependency, conditions meaning dependency on the conditions. Where the dependency is not there, something exists. This is a very important, say axiom that we need to know. If things are independent, or if things are independent, this is what we need to know. If things are independent, or let's say for an independent entity, if it exists, it should exist always. If it does not exist, it should never exist at any time. Okay, this is what we have to learn. For an independent entity or for an independent thing, if it exists, it should exist eternally. If it does not exist, it should never exist. Okay, anyone who likes to give reasons? Okay, let's say for an independent entity, meaning that if something exists independently, then the axiom that we need to learn is that if that object exists, it should exist eternally, and if it does not exist, it should never exist at any time, at any place. Okay, tell me, the first one, for an independent entity, if it exists, it should exist eternally. Why? Yes, Tejal?
If something exists independently, it implies that it does not depend on any other conditions to exist. So if it exists, then its existence is eternal or permanent.
How?
Because it's nothing can impinge on its mode of existence as it is right now. Nothing can affect it because it is completely independent of causes and conditions.
Then it can disappear on its own.
But it is unchanging, it's permanent.
No, this I did not say. I said if something is independent. I did not say if something is permanent. Something is permanent, you're right. Permanent, and if it exists, it should exist eternally. Okay, anyone else? Anyone else? My question is, for an independent entity, if it exists, it should exist eternally. And the second one is, for an independent entity, if something does not exist, it should never exist at any time, at any place. So the first part of the question is, for an independent entity, if something exists, it should exist eternally. Why? Anyone? Anyone who likes to try? Yes, Mithun?
Yeah, it is universal. Axiom is a universal phenomenon which is true.
No. Just give me the reason. I'm asking for the reason. For example, Tejal attempted. Yes, over there.
Like,
Yeah, if we think about the space, it has independent existence. It will always eternally.
Okay, in fact, from what we're going to learn from this text, nothing exists independently, right? Don't forget this. But the point is that we have to ask question: how can we say that nothing exists independently, right? Say for example, if we believe that the space exists independently, I don't remember any philosopher who said that the space is the creator of the universe. Time, yes. Then the particles, yes. And then the external agent, created God, yes. And then say the karma, yes. I don't remember any philosopher proposing the space as the creator of the universe. I don't remember any specific philosopher.
We talked about Ankaya, whether it has independent existence.
No. From Buddhism is very simple. From Buddhism, I can just speak. Speak from Buddhist point of view. Nothing exists independently. Although I don't understand it fully, but I can say for sure that the text which I learned the last many years, from Buddhism, nothing exists independently, including Dharmakaya, Buddha, Nirvana, Buddhahood, Buddha nature, subjective clear light, objective clear light. Nothing exists independently, right? Okay, so anyone who likes to explain as
Vishwa, you explain.
okay, so say the question. Okay, now if I'm to explain, I want somebody to crystallize the question, right? Somebody to paraphrase the question, put the question properly. So anyone who likes to put the question once more? Anyone? Quick. Usually Nilzal is very active. Why? Yes, Ajila?
Yeah, if things exist independently.
Yeah.
It should exist eternally.
Okay.
That is the question.
No, it's not a question.
I mean,
It's a statement that you
yeah,
made.
that is the axiom.
What is the statement? What's the question then?
The question is how it can be so.
That's true. Yeah, that's the question. Okay. For an independent entity, if something is independent, and if it does exist, it should exist eternally. Why? Right? How is this so? Or why? This is the question. Okay.
Can we put emptiness also?
Everything. I said objective clear light. Objective clear light means emptiness. Okay, good. So here, the point is, say, this flower. Let's say this flower, as you put it, say if something exists independently, and then I presupposes that this flower exists independently, then you would say that if it exists independently, if it exists, it should exist eternally. It should never droop. It should never droop. Right? Okay. So now, if it exists independently, and what's the opposite of it's the same, and then what is the reality? After a while, the flower droops. Right? After a while, the flower droops, the reality. Which means that once the flower exists, at the next moment, the flower droops and disappears. Say after 20 days, the flower droops and disappears. So why at one point the flower is so fresh, and why the same flower droops the next moment? Right? Why? Because there are conditions which maintain this flower so fresh. There are conditions which maintain this flower so fresh, and there are conditions which make the flower to droop. There are various conditions. You getting it? There are various conditions. Okay, there are various conditions. Now, let's say the flower, if it is a very fresh flower, and usually the lotus flower. Okay, let's say lotus flower or the rose flower. Rose flower, if you keep it in say 50-60 degrees centigrade, this flower under say 20 degrees centigrade may last for 10 days. In 50 degrees centigrade, it lasts for maybe 2-3 days or 1 day, right? 1-2 days, and then it droops and dies. Okay, So why the flower droops faster under the higher temperature? Because higher temperature is the factor to decompose the flower faster, right? There is additional factor coming to expedite, to speed the degeneration, what do you call it? Disintegration of this flower, right? So external factors decide whether this flower should remain fresh or should droop. External factors decide, which means that the flower is not independent of itself. It depends on the external factors. So where the external factors are there, only then it droops. Where the external factors are not there, it will not droop, right? If it's independent of the external factors, there's no factor which can make it change. If it is independent of external factors, there should be no external factors which can make this undergo change. If there's no factor which can make this undergo change, it will keep remaining like this. It will keep remaining like this. Keeping remaining like this is known as permanent. It should remain eternally long. You're getting it? So therefore, if it is independent, it should be independent of the external factors, external conditions. And if there is no external conditions to bring change to this object will never change on its own. It will continue to go like this. You're getting it? Okay. And then another thing is that the object may disintegrate on its own without external factors, right? Which means that this flower, today is what? 15th October 2017. So this flower came by dependence on the flower of 2000 as the 17th October 14th. So that is the cause. By dependence that today's flower came into being. By dependence on today's flower, tomorrow's flower will come into being. So there's a dependency on the causes, not only as external separate entity, external simultaneous entity, but within that, again, there is a cause-effect relationship. Dependency is there. If it is independent, it should not depend even on the previous moments and the later moments, right? If it does not depend on the previous moment, then previous moment is responsible for giving rise to this moment of the flower, and is also responsible for the decay of the disintegration of this flower. The previous moment, right? That is the cause for the arising of this flower as well as the degeneration of this flower, the previous moment. If it is independent, it should not depend on the previous moment. So if it does not depend on the previous moment, there is no factor which will bring it to come into arising. No, there is any factor which will make it degenerate. So if it exists, it will forever exist like this, because there is no factor which can make it to disintegrate. Okay, one. Number two is, what if for an independent entity, if it does not exist, it will never come into existence at any time, at any place. Why? Now can anyone, with the reasoning which I said earlier for the eternity of the flower, should it be independently existent? Now can anyone tell me what if the flower does not exist, and if the flower is an independent entity, and if it does not exist, it should never arise, come into existence. Why? Anyone? Yes, Sumedha ji?
Is our body independent completely or dependent on each other, parts of the body?
If it is totally independent.
This is what
Yeah, if it is totally independent, then if it is non-existent, it will forever remain non-existent. Why? Because for something non-existent and then to come into being, only factors, other conditions, only when other conditions are there, they will influence the object, to bring about transformation. Say the seed, then the sapling. At the time of the seed, sapling was not there. So the substantial cause and the cooperative causes, they influence the seed to change into the sapling. So sapling comes into being because of other factors, which was non-existent at the time of the seed, and then it comes into being at a different time. Whereas if the sapling is independent and during the time of the seed it is non-existent, then the sapling will never come into being, because the sapling comes into being because of the water and other conditions, and these conditions should have no power because the sapling is independent entity. Okay, so this is one very important point to keep in mind. We will do one or two stanzas, then we'll stop here. 255. If it has passed beyond the past, why is it the past? Okay, say if 2017 flower, okay, say 2017 October 15th flower, which is today. Now tomorrow, the October 16th, today's flower will change into 2016 October flower, which means the flower of 15th October will disappear. Disappear meaning will transform into the next. So it ceases to exist. Which means that what is present will go into past. What is present will go into past, right? So that flower which is past now, is it something which has gone from the present to the past, right? Say October 14th. No, today is 15th. The October 14th. October 14th was once present, now past. Okay, so that flower went from the present to the past. So it was moving from the present to the past of the 2014, right? No, October 14th. Okay, so what it says that if it is past beyond the past, why is it the past, right? Say it moved from the present to the past. So we say that it is past. And from the position of the advocates of independent time existing independently, so the past, present, future, because they are all independent, if they exist, they should exist simultaneously, right? So the past, then if it has to move from the present to the past, if it has to move from present to the past, in the first place, it cannot move from the present to the past. If it is to move from the present to the past, initially it should be the present. If it is present, it should always remain as present. It should never become past. So past cannot be posited. If you think about the present going into the past, why is it the past? If it has not passed beyond the past, why is it the past? If it doesn't go, move into the past, is the past, is not the past, is the present.
It looks like there's a repetition here.
Which one?
255 is appearing twice.
Oh, yes.
It's a duplication.
Same as with 270 on next page.
Very good. Okay, so this is 270.
271 is missing.
271 is missing.
Yeah, 256 is missing.
Oh,
She's always waiting to ask her question.
okay. So what I would suggest is that someone take the responsibility. Who's going to volunteer to make sure that all the stanzas are intact? Okay, the bachelor will take the responsibility. Okay, that's good. So what we'll do is that we'll stop here. Yes, one or two questions. Okay, so now I think it's already 6. We will have one or two questions. Yeah.
Geshe, I have 2 questions. One is from last class. How is the production, abiding, and disintegration both synonymous and simultaneous? How to understand that? And then second, now when you were speaking and you say it's both permanent as well as intrinsic. So when Acharya Aryadeva is trying to point out that it's not permanent, it's not intrinsic, so that intrinsic, what is that exactly pointing to?
Okay, this is a good question. Number one, what we were saying was that from Vaibhashika point of view, when you speak about impermanent phenomena, it has three characteristics. Impermanent phenomena should necessarily have three characteristics. For example, let's say the flower. Flower is impermanent phenomena. It has three characteristics. How? First, arising. The flower arises. Okay, flower comes into being. Once the flower comes into being, then the flower abides as a flower for some time, for like say 2 days, 10 days, and then after that it disintegrates. So there are three phases for all impermanent phenomena: arising, abiding, and disintegration. So these three are sequential in nature. These three are sequential in nature according to Vaibhashika. Whereas according to South Tantra school, which we are learning now as a part of the Narendra Master's course, and then the high schools, arising, abiding, disintegration, pertaining to impermanent phenomena. These three are synonymous. These three are synonymous, meaning that what is arising itself is abiding, what is abiding itself is disintegrating. Right? Okay. Let's say arising. When you speak about, they say the seed arising into the shoot, arising into the shoot. In the process, we see that arising is consistent of time. If time is not involved, then arising makes no sense. And time should have three phases. What are they? Beginning, middle, and end. So without these three phases intact, the time does not make any sense. Without time, arising does not make any sense. So arising should necessarily have these three phases: beginning, middle, and end. Within this arising, what we call as the arising, beginning, middle, and end. So say within that, beginning is there. Beginning is what? Gone. That is disintegrated. And the middle is existent. Right? Abiding. And the end is yet to come. The future. Now within what we call as abiding, even that also exists in time. Because abiding means it will abide for some time. That also exists in time. Time should necessarily have three components: beginning, middle, and end. Again, within that, the beginning is gone, the past. That is the disintegrated, right? Disintegration. And what is abiding? That is the abiding phase. And then the third one is arising phase. The end is yet to come. It arises. So we see that it is just seen as orderly. In actuality, if you go into deeper, we see that within the arising, all three are there. Right? And within the abiding, all three are there. Within the disintegration, all three are there. So these three things. Let us not say that arising of the flower is the abiding of the flower. This is not a connotation. Arising of the flower is abiding of the flower. This is not a connotation, because when it is arising, it is not yet there. It is not yet existent. But within arising, abiding is there and disintegration is there. And within disintegration, arising is there, abiding is there, disintegration is there. Okay, what is the second one?
Permanence and intrinsic.
Okay, permanent existence and intrinsic existence. Okay, so this is, for this, permanent is something which does not change. It does not change. This is connotation. And the intrinsic has a connotation of objective existence, or in other words, the independent. What is independent of all mental imputation? What is independent of the mental imputation? So, and the difference in subtlety is a huge between seeing the person as permanent and seeing the person as intrinsic. Because Vaibhashika, Sautantika Chidamatra, Madhyamika, except for no. In fact, none of the Buddhist philosophers would say that the self is permanent. But all the Buddhist schools, except for Prasangika, will say that self exists intrinsically. Right? And self exists truly, intrinsically. Again, there's a variation. Right? So therefore, the study of the 10 system is so precious. Otherwise, many people, they see, when they explain emptiness, about the emptiness of intrinsic reality, they'll explain the emptiness of independence. No, emptiness of permanent phenomena, which is very, very, very shallow. Right? But we can't really explain in 2-3 words. So the difference between the permanence and the intrinsicality. So we have to study more of the distinctions of the 10 systems. Okay, Ajirla, yes?
This is the question, I'm taking it further from Tejas. Now, in the case of the impermanent phenomena, yes, there is a rising, there is dividing, and there is a cessation of the disintegration. Now the whole question is whether it is simultaneous or sequential. Now you give the example, well, in the case of the arising, there is the abiding and the disintegration. Now the question is that, however subtle or quick this change is taking place there, isn't it there really a sequentiality? Because to that,
What's the question? However fast the disintegration takes place?
Yeah, I think it may be so fast that it may be sometimes very difficult to really get hold of that, and we say that okay, it is taking place simultaneously. But what I am really trying to get clarification is that, isn't it that these things are taking place sequentially, but so fast that we are saying that it is taking place simultaneously?
Okay, so what we do is that say when we speak about ultimate reality, or let's say, okay, what are you doing? I'm drinking water. This is correct. For a chemist, what are you doing? I'm drinking H2O. For a physicist, elemental particle physicist, what are you drinking? I'm drinking electrons, protons, neutrons, bosons. Right? All three are correct. When you speak on the very subtle level of the electrons, protons, so forth, it doesn't mean that the first answer was wrong. So first answer was correct. Likewise, in a very mundane, ordinary sense, these three things happen, I'll say, sequentially. Well, let's say the flower first arises, then it abides, then it disintegrates. Now, that is one thing. This is outside the philosophy. Now, into philosophy, into logic, Vaibhashikas would say that even as a part of logic, they say that these three should be sequential. So the other philosophers, they say that in the mundane, ordinary sense, these three are sequential is fine, but with respect to the philosophy and logic, this is not acceptable. These three are simultaneous, meaning that when the arising happens, there is a simultaneously abiding happening and disintegration happening. When the abiding happens, arising, disintegration, and abiding happening. Disintegration, arising, abiding, disintegration happening. All happening simultaneously, right? Okay. Whereas we cannot say that this flower is arising, while the flowers are arising, the flowers are abiding, the flower is disintegrating. This is not acceptable, because we should know that when the flowers are arising, the flower is not there. When the flower is arising, the flower is there, the flower has arisen, not arising. It is arisen. Only when the flower is arisen, then we can speak about the flower abiding and disintegrating. Right? Whereas the three things not attached with the flower, but there's object there. Object, whatever is object, the atoms, electrons, protons, whatever, this is constantly in arising, constantly in abiding, constantly disintegrating. Yeah. Okay, Nilzola, maybe the last question.
This is the first stanza 251.
Oh.
So it talks about past, present being in the future, which is not possible.
Yeah.
So what about the other way around? Like if we talk about the future and the present being present in the past.
How?
If we take the example of a seed, I could say that the present and the future of the plant, it exists in the seed. And then maybe
Can you explain further? How do you say that the future of the plant, future of the plant is in the seed?
For the farmers, they plant the seed because they know that there's going to be a shoot and fruit in the future. So there is a cause-effect relationship, and there is some reason.
Okay. So in fact, what you're saying is coming in the following stanzas, which is a part of what is known as the say, particularly the Samkhya tradition. Samkhya tradition, and there's some of the philosophers, classical Indian philosophers, who believe that in the seed, in the apple seed, all what is going to be produced from the seed, they are all existent in the seed. Say the apple seed eventually grow into a big apple tree, they would say the apple tree exists in the seed. Apple tree exists in the seed, not in a manifest form, non-manifest form it exists. What is manifest is the seed, what is non-manifest is the apple tree. So apple tree exists in the seed. This is what they are saying. And very similar today, very similar to this, today is the genes, right? From the genes we could see that what's going to be the color of the child, what's going to be the color, what's going to be the the color of the whatever of the, whether there's organ failure, whether the organs are going to be intact. All these things we can see on the basis of the structure of the genes, right? Okay, so this is a very interesting topic, that whatever is going to, the results which is going to be come out in the future, they actually exist in the seed, in the cause. This is a position of the Samkhyas, and very similar, not 100%, but similar is what the today's geneticists would say, right? But these are not identical. Some people may just rashly come to the conclusion these two are identical. These two are not. What the geneticists they are saying is 100% what accords with the reality. That accords with the reality. What the Samkhya is saying does not accord with the reality. Although the presentation seems very similar, but one accords with reality, one does not. Right? Okay, so that will come later.
Very quick, one question.
Yes.
Stanza 255.
Yes.
It says, if it has passed beyond the past. It says, if it has passed beyond the past. So if there is a past and a present and a future, then is there something beyond past, beyond future? Also, like here, if I read this line, it's so what I can infer is that there is something beyond past also.
Okay, say 2016 is past, then 2015 is past beyond one specific past, right? In that context, yeah. Yes, Pushkarji.
If the thing happening, all the things happening simultaneously, the seed will become sprout, definitely become sprout, then it will become the tree. But if we disconnect the all factors, then seed becomes seed. Means it is not going to become sprout or anything.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you agree with the three things happening simultaneously or not?
If the three things happening
Simultaneously.
then it will definitely become sprout. The seed will definitely
Okay,
become sprout.
so Pushkarji is in line with the author, saying that if these three things, or not the author, in line with the South Tantrika and the above schools, saying that if these three things are simultaneous, only then we can see that the seed can grow into sprout and sprout can grow into tree, whatever. Whereas if these things are not simultaneous, then a seed can become a seed, but it will never become a sprout. This is what you're saying? Okay, which means that if I really got him correctly, then he must be a great philosopher. Yeah, this is, because I cannot judge fully, but this accords with the high schools, right? So in a way, what Prashantji, the Pushkarji is saying is that by Vaibhashika's presentation, there's a limitation. And he sees that if you hold on to the position as espoused by the high schools, that accords with the functional world. A seed can become a sprout, sprout can become a big tree like this. So that is possible only if we accept the three characteristics of the impermanent phenomena as simultaneously happening. Right? This is what you're saying? Okay, so the question can be, say, can you explain further? Right? This is, anyway, this is going to a very good direction, and then we have to explore further as to how that is happening, how that is possible. Okay, any questions? No? We'll stop here. End dedication prayer. Okay, page 309. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I journey with the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the triple gem. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. The path of union of emptiness and compassion is lucidly explained by the protector of the Dharma and the beings of the snow land. You are the lotus holder and Tenzin Gyatso. We supplicate you that your wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds of the negative forces of humans or non-humans who harbor malice through perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas be totally vanquished through the power of the truth of the three jewels. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by a Manjushri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings on dependent origination in particular, even at the cost of my life.